You good-for-nothing wife. I see no value in being with you anymore. If you have complaints, let's divorce. The man shouting and turning red in the face in front of me was none other than my husband. How did I end up marrying a man like this? I had been thinking that we would support each other as a family of two from now on. But then suddenly, I'll live with Dad. What? That was the reality my daughter abruptly thrust upon me. But my daughter had a secret plan. My name is Mary, and I'm 42 years old. I've been married to Johnson for almost 20 years. We're a family of 3, living with our high school freshman daughter, Mina. My husband has always been consumed by his work, so we never really went out together as a family when Mina was little. I loved my job and wanted to get back to work as soon as I put Mina in preschool, but my husband commanded me otherwise. You're a wife and a mother. Just take care of the house. Don't even think about working. It's ridiculous. He takes care of the living expenses, so we don't struggle financially. But neither my daughter nor I want this kind of life. We want to go out together more as a family, spend time together, just the 3 of us. That's what we desire. But when I tell my husband that, he dismisses it as stupid, a waste of time. Unlike you two, I'm busy with work every day, and treats my daughter and me as if we were in the way. My daughter seemed to sense, even at a young age, that her father was rejecting family time. After a while, the time she spent talking to him decreased dramatically. On the other hand, my daughter and I got along like sisters. We would go shopping together, go to the movies on weekends. As she grew, she started helping with housework, and I could enjoy some free time for myself. My husband was relatively quiet. As long as my daughter and I didn't talk to him, he ate his meals without complaining. My daughter and I had grown accustomed to this lifestyle. But then one day, my husband started complaining about me. Hey, I've been thinking about this for a while, but what is this mess you call food? I didn't change the seasoning or anything. I know that. Every single day you serve this disgusting food. Who do you think pays for the ingredients? Huh? Can't you even handle household chores properly as a homemaker? This is how he would yell, making unreasonable complaints. I had never been told that my cooking was delicious, but I had never been attacked with such harsh words before. The seasoning is too bland. Are you treating me like an old man? Who do you think supports our lifestyle? That's because, as his arrogance escalated, our daughter, who was eating with us, suddenly spoke. Hey, Dad, can you not yell in the morning? It's hurting my head. And if you think the taste is bland, why don't you add your own seasoning? You're not a child. My daughter's blunt response made the husband falter for a moment. He seemed unsure how to react with her since he had never really faced her properly. Usually he'd get nervous every time she said something to him. Hey, are you listening, Dad? It's true that we live on your money, but who do you think cooks for you? Who lets you eat every day? Who washes your clothes so that you can wear a clean shirt every day? That is... The husband, challenged by his daughter, struggled to find the words to reply. Then he turned his anger towards me instead. Hey, it's your bad parenting that's made Mina such a bratty kid. How are you going to take responsibility? What? Calling your own daughter a brat? It's true. Mina will probably turn out just like you. No good as an adult. The husband sneered, looking triumphant. I couldn't bear him ridiculing not only me but our precious daughter as well. Enough! How can you say something like that to your own daughter? You're the worst! Raising my voice, the husband looked at me with scorn and retorted, You're a useless wife. I don't see the point of being with you. If you have complaints, let's get a divorce. A divorce? Why would you say that all of a sudden? What? Are you afraid of getting divorced? Well, I guess that makes sense for an unemployed homemaker like you. Living on your own would be impossible. With that, the husband began to laugh loudly. As he said, I had been a homemaker for so long that I didn't have much savings. Raising our daughter alone after the divorce would undoubtedly be challenging. But living with this man any longer, I absolutely couldn't endure it. While I was agonizing over this, our daughter spoke up again. Mom, it's okay. You don't have to stay married to Dad if it's too hard. I support the divorce. At her words, I felt a sudden lightness in my heart. My biggest worry about the divorce was my daughter, but she was saying this to me. There might be struggles ahead, but as long as I was with my beloved daughter, I made up my mind and agreed to my husband's demand for a divorce. All right, let's get divorced. With that, my husband, as if he had been waiting for this moment, pulled a filled out. Come on, sign this. I'll give you the moving expenses as a parting gift. You're quite prepared, aren't you? Of course I am. You've wanted to divorce me for a long time now. I even started complaining about everything and you didn't notice. You hold on too much, you know. So that was it. My husband had been deliberately complaining to get a divorce quickly. He must have hated me so much. With that thought, I no longer cared about anything. I signed the divorce paper as he instructed, and he handed me the money. Make the most of that money. I felt like losing if I accepted it, but I could see that I would need the money. Without a word, I took the envelope and put it in my pocket. Once I decided on the divorce, it felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. So I decided to leave with my daughter right away. Come on, Mina, let's get ready. For now, we'll go to my parents' house until we find a new place, I began to say. I'm not moving. I'm staying with Dad, okay? What? What did you just say? Not moving? Staying with her father? I was utterly flustered by my daughter's words. Wait a minute, Mina. What do you mean? You were going to live with me. But I'm a high school student. I don't want to transfer schools now. Moving is a hassle, you know. Then Mom will find a house near your high school. I said it's fine. I'm used to living in this house, and I've decided to live efficiently. My daughter looked lively and not at all anxious. Seeing her like that, I felt incredibly sad. Was I the only one who thought we were close? The reaction from my daughter was more shocking than being confronted with divorce by my husband. But it wasn't just me who was taken aback. My husband was also confused. Don't joke. Normally a daughter lives with the mother. Get out with her. Stop it. I said no. That's why I'm saying I'll live with Dad. I don't care about that. You were close with Mary, weren't you? Why then? But I told you, moving is a hassle and living with Dad is more convenient if I think about efficiency. My daughter explained with ease, but my husband was not convinced. He kept yelling, Get out with Mary! But my daughter stubbornly shook her head. She continued to speak. Mom, I'll help you pack. It'll be faster if we do it together. Saying that, she began to gather my belongings in my room. I can't understand her intentions at all. What is Mina thinking? I was in a state of confusion. Maybe I was the only one who thought we were close like sisters, and she never liked me from the beginning. I started to think pessimistic thoughts, and tears welled up in my eyes. As I looked down to hide my face, my daughter spoke cheerfully. You'll be okay, Mom. Just bear it a little longer. Huh? I froze for a moment, not understanding. But that confusion was cleared when my daughter explained a certain plan. That's the way it is. So, Mom, hang in there by yourself. All right, I get it, I said, energized now that I had my daughter as a co-conspirator. I won't let my husband have his way with me. I will have my revenge. With revenge in my heart, I packed my things and left our home. I then went back to my parents' house, and a month later, I was able to rent an apartment. Once I told my daughter the new address, she started coming over after school. According to her, the plan is going smoothly. It should happen soon, she told me, 3 months after I had divorced my husband. Sure enough, one day, my husband called. Hello? Mary? Please help me, he pleaded, his voice breaking. I pretended not to know what he was talking about and asked him, Help you? What on earth happened? Mina treats me like a housemaid every day. I can't take it anymore. It was exactly as I had heard. Since I left, my daughter had been forcing all the housework on him. I have work, and yet she tells me to make proper meals and do the laundry every day. Even the cooking, it's too salty, or it's unthinkable to serve such terrible food to my daughter. I'm really at the end of my tether. It seems my daughter is hurling back at him all the unfair things he said to me. What goes around comes around. Unaware, he turned to me for help. Please take Mina back. I'll go crazy if things keep going like this. Honestly, I would have no problem taking Mina. But if I agreed now, it would ruin the strategy my daughter worked so hard on. So I told my husband, why don't you talk to Mina about that? It's her choice to live with you. If you really want her to leave, why not negotiate with her? I hung up, firm in my decision. This is the right thing to do. I'll just ignore my personal feelings for now and follow my daughter's plan faithfully. A week later, my daughter Mina moved into my apartment with a large sum of money. We did it, Mom! Our plan was a huge success. Indeed. It's all thanks to you, Mina. Yes, my daughter never intended to live apart from me. She had planned to make her father realize the hardship of housework and the efforts of a mother, and then make him understand what he had done. When he finally cracked and begged her to leave, she had him agree to pay her a lump sum for child support until she became an adult. That was my daughter's plan. Mina received $50,000 all at once from her husband, calculated at $1,000 per month until she reaches adulthood. And that's how she happily moved into my apartment. I must say, it's a terrifyingly clever plan that my daughter conceived, but the fact remains that her plan has relieved me of financial worries. As if that wasn't enough, my daughter brought even more valuable information. And Mom, here's this. What? She handed me a voice recorder. Just listen to it. Urged by my daughter, I played the voice recorder, and there was the sound of my husband talking to someone else on the phone. Oh, the divorce is all settled. But there's my daughter. No worries, I'll make sure she moves out. Millie, my daughter finally agreed to leave. Now I can live with Millie. Yes, I love you too. It was undoubtedly the voice of my husband, talking to his mistress. Furthermore, the daughter showed me a picture of her father with an unknown woman. What is this? Mina, what's up with this picture? While you had Dad doing housework, I searched through his mobile phone. Oh, I saved the text messages with his mistress too. Want to see them? The daughter gleefully kept showing evidence of her father's infidelity. Terrifying, but thanks to the evidence gathered by my daughter, I was able to claim compensation from my husband in the divorce proceedings. After contacting the lawyer to claim the compensation, the husband called. "Hey, what's this about compensation in the divorce proceedings now? We're already divorced. It doesn't matter who I'm involved with now, does it?" Then the daughter snatched the mobile phone from me and responded, "You know, Dad, aren't you supposed to be an adult? Did you know that if infidelity is discovered within 3 years, you can still claim compensation in a divorce proceeding even after the divorce?" "What?" The husband was speechless on the other end, not knowing this fact. He had fallen into his daughter's trap. I ignored the ranting husband and blocked his calls, leaving the rest to the lawyer. Eventually, my ex-husband and his mistress had to pay me a lump sum for the divorce settlement. He remarried the mistress, but she seems to spend money like crazy. She used up all his earnings and maxed out his credit cards, leaving him in debt. The fact that his reason for divorce was infidelity spread quickly at his workplace, and he seems to be looked down on by his colleagues. "He was cheating even though he has a high school daughter." "He was always playing the good husband at the office, huh?" The rumor reached the higher-ups, and my newly promoted husband was demoted back to an ordinary employee. His salary dropped, and he's being berated every day by his spendthrift new wife. I even started to feel a little sorry for him at this point. As for me, I'm living happily with my daughter. I've saved all the alimony from my ex-husband for my daughter's college fund, and I'm supporting our life with a part-time job. We're not wealthy by any means, but my daughter doesn't complain, and we have lively days together. I'm really thankful for having her. Together, we can overcome any difficulties in the future. I felt truly grateful for this happiness.
Divorce me. As soon as James came home from work, he dropped this bombshell on me. Hold on a minute. Did I do something wrong? Why are you talking about divorce? I'm just sick of life with you, James said, clearly annoyed. You look after the kids since they seem to be attached to you. What is he talking about? Confused and stunned, I was at a loss for words. I'm Patricia, 32 years old. I live with James, who is 6 years older than me, and our 4 children. Both of us have been married before. I met James while I was a single mom living with my daughter. James had 3 kids from his first marriage, and after the divorce, he took custody of all of them. Drawn to his devotion for his kids, I decided to remarry. I had a 10-year-old daughter and suddenly became a mom of an 11-year-old boy, a 7-year-old boy, and a 5-year-old girl. I thought that together we could build a happy family, but the happy times didn't last. A few months into our remarriage, I noticed James acting differently. He used to come home right after work, but gradually, he started coming home later. When I asked him why, all he said was, I have to finish up some work, so I'll be late coming home for a while. Don't bother with dinner. It started with him coming home just 2 or 3 hours late. But soon, he was coming home past midnight or even the next morning. His kids, my stepchildren, started to worry about their dad's late nights. I tried to stay cheerful for the sake of the kids, but with James not home, I had to take care of the household chores, childcare, and even my job, leading to exhausting days. Are you okay? Can I help you with anything? Thank you. Could you go grocery shopping? My eldest stepson, Mark, is very responsible and always helps out around the house, even though we're not related by blood. Daniel and Michelle, my younger stepchildren, seemed lonely without their dad. My biological daughter, Lisa, treats her step-siblings like her real brothers and sisters. With the help of Mark and Lisa, I was somehow managing to maintain our current lifestyle. But I was getting more and more frustrated with James, who seemed to be neglecting our adorable children. James kept coming home late, without a second thought for the kids. Hey, is work really that busy? Yeah, pretty much. Can't you come home a little earlier? The kids are missing their dad. Unhappy with my suggestion, James suddenly slammed his desk in anger. I'm working these late hours for the sake of our family. You can take care of the kids on your own. That's how you say it? I just want you to spend more time at home and face the children. I was at a loss for words at James' sudden transformation, something I'd never seen before. But that only seemed to irritate him further. Can't you even handle the kids properly? I was too scared to say anything more as James shouted and kicked a chair across the room. From that day on, James was hardly ever home. He wouldn't answer his phone, leaving me anxious as I took care of the kids day in and day out. I had to work around the clock since he wouldn't give us any money for living expenses. The kids sensed the tension and began helping out around the house to alleviate some of my burden. One day, the whole family was working together to manage their daily lives. Then, one day, James came back abruptly. In his hand was a divorce paper. He said coldly, "Let's get a divorce. I don't want to be with an old woman like you anymore." Wait, what? What did I do to deserve this? I'm just fed up with this life with you. I wish you'd reconsider for the sake of the kids. This is a second marriage for both of us. And another divorce would hurt everyone involved. The kids had finally started to adjust to our life and even started to smile more. I didn't want to cause them any more pain. You're always concerned about the kids, aren't you? What? That's what I'm tired of. To begin with, I don't even care about the kids. I only married you because I thought you'd take care of them. What a cruel thing to say to your own child. I was speechless at James' cruel words. The kids seem to like you, so you look after all 4 of them. What are you talking about? 3 of them are your children. Think about how they feel. Shut up. Their mother abandoned them. That's why I took them in. I just want to be free. You can take care of them in my stead. Do you even realize what you're saying? I was shaking with anger at James' selfishness. So you never came home because you've been feeling this way? James smirked, as if mocking me. You actually thought I was busy with work? What do you mean? I didn't come home because I didn't want to be with you. Hanging out with friends is way more fun. So you lied about work? Yep, that's the gist of it. Having drinks at a pub, then hitting the club. There was this really cute girl there. James sat down on the sofa, crossing his legs, showing no remorse. You neglected your family to go there? He didn't even give us living expenses, yet he was out clubbing? Anger and sorrow filled me. But James had another shocking revelation. This marriage was a real mistake. Well, I'm out of money and you're of no use to me anymore. You spent money on... Clubs aren't cheap, you know. I didn't want to pay for all of it, so I took it out of your account. James said this and nonchalantly tossed a banking card onto the table. I had a bad feeling, so I hurriedly checked the card. It was from the account I had diligently saved in for Lisa's future after divorcing my previous husband. Almost all the money was gone. James should have known how important this money was, and yet he used this money without asking. Ran out of money taking that girl out for dinners and gifts. You've never even bought your own kids' birthday presents, but you've been showering her with gifts? Talking to this man was just pointless. I felt so defeated that I didn't care anymore. Fine, let's get a divorce. James grinned, as if he had been waiting for me to say that. I had always thought it was better for the kids to have both parents, but not when one is as selfish and awful as him. With that resolve, I filled out the divorce papers. Submit that to town hall by tomorrow. Me? I'm busy preparing for my next marriage. Your what? The girl I told you about? Seems she's into me. She's young and cute. I plan to leave you and marry her. Women, it's all about looks and youth, right? I felt a wave of disgust looking at James' mocking smile. What is that? Is this all because we're in the way of your new relationship? Yep, pretty much. I'll be moving out. You're on your own now. James left the house without even looking back at me. A whirlwind of anger, sadness, and regret left me collapsed on the floor. How did I end up marrying someone like this? I knew regret wouldn't change anything, but I couldn't help feeling it. How much time had passed? I was sitting in the living room lost in thought. Mom, you okay? Anything wrong? The voice of concern came from my eldest son, Mark. Don't worry, I'm fine. I acted normal, not wanting to worry Mark. The next day, I filed for divorce. It was hard to explain to the kids, but I simply told them, we're going to live separately from Dad. Daniel and Michelle were visibly shaken without their dad around, but they adjusted eventually. Mark and Lisa took even greater care of their younger siblings. As expected, James didn't pay child support. In desperation, I contacted his workplace only to find out he had recently quit. James remained missing. I worked tirelessly to support my 4 children. Thanks to their support, even the hardest days were bearable. A decade passed like this, and my children grew up well. One unexpected day, long after I had nearly forgotten James, something happened. I had planned to go to dinner with the kids after work. As I was leaving work, "It's been a long time, Patricia," I was stopped by a familiar voice. Turning around, there was James in worn-out clothes. What are you doing here? I waited to see you. Are you off work? Can we talk? After all he had done to us, what was he thinking? Sorry, I have plans. What's up? Can we live together like before, all 6 of us? James, who had abandoned his family 10 years ago, was now making this selfish request. By then, I could only feel contempt for him. What are you talking about? How can you say that after hurting your own children? Living together again is out of the question. Wait, listen to me. Hey, what are you doing to Mom? Mark, what are you doing here? Weren't you waiting at home? I got worried when you didn't come back at the agreed time. We were close by, so we decided to check on you, Mom. Mark pulled me away from James. In the distance, I saw Lisa, Daniel, and Michelle looking concerned. Mark, you're Mark, right? James ran up to Mark. Daniel, Michelle, Lisa, it's been a while. Do you remember Dad? Dad? Wow, you've all grown so much. How have you been? The kids glared at James as he casually tried to strike up conversation. Mark, can you help me persuade Mom too? I've been telling her we should all live together again, but she won't listen. You really mean that? We should all live together again? Of course. Wouldn't it be better if Dad was around? James reached out to touch Mark's shoulder, but Mark pushed his hand away. Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how hard Mom has struggled all these years? You show up out of nowhere, saying we should live together, that it's better if you're around. I've never once thought of you as my dad. It was surprising to see Mark, who is usually so kind, this angry. Even James seemed stunned for a moment, his face slowly turning red with anger. Who do you think you're talking to like that? Have you forgotten? I raised you when you were young. What? Raising us? You always thought we were a burden, even back then. That day, you mean? The day you left us. Lisa and I heard every word of your conversation back then. My heart pounded at the memory. How shocking that must have been for the kids. It pained me to think about their feelings. Don't act like a dad now after you abandoned us. What did you say? I'm your real dad. You're taking her side over your own flesh and blood. Fueled by anger, James lunged at Mark. Stop it, both of you. Shut up. He's the one disrespecting his dad. Seeing James still trying to confront Mark, I decided to tell the kids the truth. By the way, how's Betty? Weren't you planning to remarry? James froze. At the mention of Betty, a girl from a club he frequented. Who's Betty?
What do you mean, remarry?
The kids asked curiously. Betty is the name of the woman Dad fell for. He left Mom to remarry Betty, who worked at the club.
No way, you're lying!
When I started talking, James' face tightened. Why would you mention that name? After you disappeared, I checked with your workplace. A coworker who was close to you told me everything. Every revelation was shocking. James, who rarely went to clubs, fell for Betty, who was just doing her job. Thinking Betty also liked him, James divorced me, only to be quickly rejected by her. Mark and Lisa were speechless, knowing James left me to marry a club girl. Daniel and Michelle looked at James with contempt.
Falling for a club girl? Seriously? How delusional can you be? Leaving Mom for something like that is the lowest of low.
That's ancient history. It doesn't matter now. Plus, there's no way I'd fall for a club girl, right? James denies the truth when the kids find out why we divorced. But what I really wanted to say was more than just that. Were you not serious? You stalked Betty, didn't you? At these words, James's face, red with anger just moments ago, turned increasingly pale. What do you mean by stalked? James couldn't let go of Betty even after she broke it off. He was so persistent that she had to call the police. He lost his job over it too. Why would you go that far? Bold of you to show your face to us after all that happened. Our kids looked at James with disdain, as if he was something filthy. I genuinely feel guilty for what I've done to you. After losing my job, I was barely making ends meet, and now I can't work due to health issues. That's why I want to come back and start fresh with you as a family. So he only showed up now because he can't work. I felt dizzy at James, who was just as selfish as he was before we divorced. I swear I won't hurt you again. Please reconsider.
No way, are you kidding?
Michelle was the first to speak up.
Exactly, it's too late to try and make amends now. You brought all of this upon yourself.
Our kids unleashed their pent-up frustrations and anger. Mom may not be our biological mother, but we love her and want her to be happy going forward. If you make her suffer anymore, we won't forgive you. Holding back tears, I told James, stay away from us. You don't want the police involved again, do you? Wait, We turned our backs on James and began to walk away. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw James slumping down, but none of us cared as we headed home. Since then, I heard James can't work anymore and lives a miserable life. It seems like his reckless past has finally caught up to him, leaving him utterly alone. As for me, I was already seeing a male colleague from my workplace. We got married a few months later. The relationship between him and my kids is great. Most importantly, I'm now living a very happy life supported by a caring husband who always puts me and the kids first.
I'll pay the alimony and child support in one lump sum, so just divorce me. As a new mom, I couldn't believe what Noah just boldly said to me. Behind Noah, his affair partner is smirking in a sickening manner. Alimony and child support? That's a given. In fact, that's not even close to enough. These fools think they can solve everything with money? I'll give them a taste of hell. My name is Sophia, and I'm 31 years old. I'm just your average housewife, balancing a job and married life. I've been married to Noah for 4 years. Noah works at a top-tier company and has just recently been promoted. From the start of our relationship, Noah was mild-mannered, and we didn't have any noticeable fights. Even after getting married, that didn't change, and we lived a calm, everyday life. But lately, I've been feeling like Noah has grown distant. To begin with, we're in our 5th year of marriage and still don't have children. We've been undergoing fertility treatments, but haven't seen much success. Noah, I'm sorry. It looks like it didn't work again. I said to Noah with a regretful look on my face. Well, it's tough, isn't it? There shouldn't be any problems on either of our ends. I wonder why. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do. I guess you're right. Well, we've been married for 5 years now. I'd like to have kids too. Yeah, I'm sorry. If this were a little while ago... Don't worry about it. We'll try again together. We'll try again together. But for some reason, he's recently made more comments concerned about not having children. We both had fertility tests and neither of us has any issues. The doctors suggested it could be due to stress or lifestyle habits, but since we both work, our lifestyles are fairly similar. I never felt a significant amount of stress in my gentle life with Noah, so why now? Lately, I've started to feel pressured by Noah's comments. Could it be that his parents are also unhappy about us not having kids? I decided to talk to them about our fertility issues and visited Noah's family home alone. His parents are usually very kind and treat me like their own daughter. That's why I felt even more guilty. Before I knew it, I was bowing my head to them. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, I'm truly sorry. Upon seeing me like this, his parents nervously asked, "What's the matter, Sophia? What on earth happened?" "I've been having trouble conceiving a child with Noah." "Is that so?" "Sophia, lift your head up." "I'll do my best, so please continue to support my marriage with Noah." As I kept my head bowed, tears streaming, father-in-law quietly muttered, "Lift up your face." When I slowly lifted my head to look at them, both were wearing gentle smiles. "Sophia, don't worry about it." "Exactly. It's not like we only approved of your marriage to have grandchildren. But it took us 7 years after getting married to have a child." "Exactly. You're still young, Sophia. Don't worry about it." "Don't stress over this. We'd consider ourselves lucky just to see the faces of grandchildren when it happens." "Sophia, worrying like this isn't good for your body. Let's take it easy." "Thank you so much, father-in-law, mother-in-law." Their warm words seemed to blow away all my anxieties. Thanks to them, I felt lighter and the will to keep trying. From that day on, Noah and I resumed our treatments. We continued to do our best, wanting to bring joy to Noah's parents. As a result, "Congratulations! You're 7 weeks pregnant!" Really? I was at a loss for words, filled with both joy and surprise at the doctor's announcement. Recently, I had been plagued by nausea and fatigue and wondered if maybe... Finally, I was blessed with a child too. "See, this shadowy figure here is your baby's little room, but you're not in the stable period yet, so don't overdo it, okay?" "Yes, thank you so much." 6 months after talking with Noah's parents, we finally conceived a child. All the effort we've put in for so long was truly worth it. I immediately called Noah. "Noah, listen, I'm finally pregnant." "Really? Are you serious?" "Yes, I am. The OBGYN confirmed today that I'm 7 weeks along." "Wow, that's great. Really great." "Thank you for being by my side. Let's keep working on this together." Yeah, sure." Noah quickly said he had to get back to work and hung up the phone. I thought he'd be happy, but he didn't seem all that thrilled. It was a little unsettling, but we've gone through hardships together for 5 years. There's no way Noah wouldn't be happy. That's what I kept telling myself as I waited for him at home. Making dinner was hard with the morning sickness, but I pushed through it to prepare Noah's favorite meal. To my disappointment, Noah didn't get home until just before midnight. As he quietly muttered, "I'm home," I rushed to him. "Noah, why are you so late today of all days? I made dinner and was waiting for you." Right. Sorry, I had to work late." "Work late? Your office usually closes by 8 or 9 at the latest. Why today?" "Geez, can you not? I'm busy too, you know. I'm going to bed." "But I went to all this trouble to make dinner." "Enough already! I'm tired. Just let me rest." With those harsh words, Noah stormed out of the living room, making a loud noise as he left. Left alone in the room, tears started flowing from my eyes due to frustration and loneliness. Why is he so cold today of all days? It's supposed to be a happy day since we found out I'm pregnant. Could it be that Noah isn't happy about this pregnancy? From that day on, Noah's attitude clearly grew colder. I noticed our conversations as a couple had dwindled significantly. Mostly, it was just me talking. All Noah would reply with were short answers, like, "Yeah," or "uh-huh." Several months passed, and Noah's cold demeanor remained unchanged. Then another curveball was thrown into our already rocky relationship. One day, Noah came home from work and casually dropped a bombshell. "By the way, I'll be working alone starting at the end of this month." "Are you kidding? For how long?" "About 2 months, so you'll have to hold down the fort while I'm away." "Wait a minute. Our baby is due soon, you know. Can't I go with you?" "Switching hospitals would be a hassle, right? I'll keep in touch, okay? I can't believe you're doing this solo work thing now, of all times. As Noah's departure date drew near, my days were filled with growing anxiety and tears. Why is this happening? It's my first time giving birth and I'm already anxious. How can he not be here with me? What kind of company would send someone on a solo project at a time like this? Eventually, as planned, Noah left. Communication was sparse. Emails went largely unanswered, except for the occasional reply every few days. Calls went mostly unanswered too. Then, about a month before my due date, I just had to talk to Noah. I kept calling. And when he finally answered, he sounded annoyed and simply said, "What?" "What do you mean, what? I'm about to give birth soon, and I haven't heard anything from you." "Can't help it. I'm busy with work." I get that, but what about being there for the birth, like we talked about? I even need you to sign a consent form for that. And then, Noah said something unbelievable. Huh? Be there for the birth? Not doing that. What? But Noah, you always said you definitely wanted to be there. Too busy for that. Just email me when the baby is born. You can't be serious. Well, that's that. Noah? Wait, what? Hold on! The call was abruptly ended on his end. Despite my several attempts afterward, Noah didn't pick up. But at that moment, I realized something. I heard another woman's voice in the background during the phone call. All of Noah's inexplicable behavior suddenly made sense. Instantly, a torrent of rage surged through me. I knew something was off, so that's what it was. If you're going that route, I won't hold back either. I'm going to make their lives a living hell. Determined to get my revenge, I started by digging into Noah's social media. Cross-referencing his followers, I stumbled upon a suspicious female account. The account name was Emily. Her face was hidden, but it looked like she was a junior employee at Noah's company. It turned out that Emily had quit her job right before Noah left to work alone. As I scrolled through Emily's posts, I saw numerous photos of her with a man who was clearly Noah, based on the clothes and accessories. Wow, so many pictures! On those days when Noah claimed he was busy with work and working overtime, he was actually cheating with Emily. After that, I immediately went to consult a lawyer to ask what I should do. Collect as much evidence of the affair as you can before you give birth, was the advice given to me. So I hired a private investigator to monitor Noah's activities while he was working alone. 1 month later, by the time I had gathered enough evidence of the affair, I had just given birth. Even after our daughter was born, Noah never came to visit. Worse yet, he ignored my calls. All I got was an email saying, "Congratulations," in a single line. According to the investigator, while I was in labor pain and exhausted from giving birth, Noah was with his mistress. They entered a room together, kissed on the street. They were acting without any restraint. Even after I was discharged and started taking care of our child alone, Noah never returned home. The evidence of his cheating just kept piling up. 2 months later, Noah came home for the first time in a while after finishing his work alone. Shockingly, Noah brazenly brought his mistress home with him. Pretending to be oblivious, I asked Noah, "So Noah, who's this?" "She's going to be my new wife. Her name's Emily." "A new wife? What are you talking about? We're not even divorced yet." "Our relationship as a couple was over anyway, right? During my working alone, I met Emily and finally found true happiness." True happiness, huh? At that moment, Emily, who had been listening to our conversation, glared at us intensely. "Hey lady, can you hurry up and get a divorce? I want to marry Noah ASAP." "Why? I have my own issues too." "So do we. I'm pregnant with Noah's child." "Pregnant?" "That's right. Unlike you, who couldn't have a child after years of marriage, I got pregnant with Noah's child immediately. So I need you to get divorced, quickly." Emily wore a smug expression and added, "Just hurry up and get divorced." Upon hearing Emily's words, Noah finally spoke up as well. "Well, you see, that's what's going on." "What do you mean, that's what's going on?" "I mean, I want a divorce." "Excuse me?" "I'll pay the alimony and child support in one lump sum. So please, let's get divorced." With that, Noah immediately handed over the divorce papers. I took them and tore them to shreds, right in front of the two of them. What are you doing, Sophia? What does it look like? It's obvious, isn't it? I'm not getting a divorce. Not getting divorced? What do you mean? I mean exactly what I said. Besides, you're the one in the wrong here, not me. So the final say on whether or not we get divorced is mine. What are you talking about? I want a divorce. I don't care what you want. If you insist, we can go to mediation, okay? Mediation? Isn't that a bit extreme? Bottom line, I'm not divorcing you. Any objections? Noah, seemingly flustered, opened and closed his mouth without saying a word. Taking Noah's place, Emily started yelling at me. Are you kidding me? Don't you know I'm pregnant? Not my problem. Also, Noah, you said you met her while you were on a business trip, but that's a lie, isn't it? Emily, you were originally Noah's junior at his company, right? And you quit your job when Noah started working remotely. Is that just a coincidence? Well, I bet your affair started around the time I got pregnant, right? While I was dealing with morning sickness and giving birth alone, the two of you were carrying on, weren't you? Well, as appropriate compensation, I'm going to demand $50,000 from each of you. $50,000? The figure was far beyond what they had imagined. Even they, who had been so confident until a moment ago, were clearly taken aback. Why? I was supposed to marry Noah and be happy! What? What are you talking about? You're pretty self-serving for someone who went after a married man. Stop it! Noah is really kind to me, and he loves only me. I couldn't help but burst into laughter at Emily's words. What's so funny? Well, a guy who neglects his pregnant wife to be with you? What's so trustworthy about a man like that? Let me guess. You were targeting newly promoted Noah's money, weren't you? Well, too bad. Between the compensation to me and child support, Noah's savings will be wiped out anyway. Serves you right. You can't be serious. You're a nuisance, so could you please leave? Oh, by the way, I've already informed your parents-in-law about this. What? They were really furious, they said. The relationship between parent and child is over. No! Emily ran out, wailing. Noah watched her go, his face devoid of life. While Noah and I tried to mend our marriage, word spread throughout the company that he had gotten Emily pregnant. Gossip started affecting Noah's work. Eventually, a critical mistake cost him his job. That's when I told Noah what I'd been waiting to say. I'm sorry, Noah. We tried to mend our relationship, but it's hopeless now. What? Why are you saying this all of a sudden? I refuse to support a man who isn't holding down an adult job. Wait! I've lost all my savings paying Sophia's settlement, and I've lost my job too. I couldn't care less. Who do you think put us in this mess in the first place? So, Sophia... Whether it was years of resentment showing on my face or not, Noah looked at me, shaking uncontrollably. I coldly laid it out for him. What? You seriously thought I'd give you another chance? Are you an idiot? I was just waiting for the perfect moment to dump you as you hit rock bottom. You're lying. You said you wouldn't divorce me. I wanted to leave you every second of every minute, but that wouldn't be revenge, would it? I've been pretending to fix our marriage just to torment you longer. What? Wait, if you divorce me now... Shut up! You left me, a pregnant woman, to have an affair and lost your job. And now you want me to stick with you? Get real! Useless people like you can suffer alone for all I care. I said those words, grabbed my child, and left the house. I left the divorce proceedings to a lawyer, and since Noah was at fault, the divorce went through quickly. I haven't seen him since. After our divorce, Noah apparently tried to reach out to his affair partner, Emily. But Emily saw no use for Noah, now jobless. Turns out she even complained to him, saying, "It's your fault I'm in debt now." In the end, he didn't even get to meet her and was completely cut off. He later tried to fall back on parents-in-law for a job, but it was too late. I had already told parents-in-law about the divorce, and they kicked him out immediately. Now he's working various odd jobs, just scraping by, day to day. As for me, I've moved back to my parents' house with my daughter, and now we're living with dad and mom. I also keep in touch with parents-in-law regularly and keep them updated on my daughter's growth. I know there will come a time when my daughter will be sad about not having a father. Even so, I want to make sure to tell her that she is the most loved person in the world to me, and that I'm grateful she was born.
Just 1 year to live? What? Me? Yes, I recommend starting treatment immediately. You're kidding me! This was completely unexpected. My life had been smooth sailing with no health issues, and now a major obstacle had appeared. My relationship with my husband was rocky, and he had betrayed me time and again. Emotional stress was taking its toll, and tears began to flow uncontrollably. Was I going to face the end alone, without even the comfort of my husband beside me? Then, 6 months after accepting this harsh reality, a glimmer of hope appeared in my life of despair. My name is Sarah. I'm 28 years old. I'm a designer at an advertising agency and also juggle household chores as a working wife. I've been married to David for 2 years. He was a colleague from work, and we found out we had the same hobbies and began to communicate privately. After dating for a year, he proposed. I had always dreamed of building a family, so I happily accepted David's offer. I want to be your wife, David. I want to be with you forever. Me too, Sarah. Let's make sure we find happiness together. Absolutely. And so, with vows of love, we registered our marriage. But just 2 years in, our marital relationship is far from great. It all started about 6 months ago, when my sister suddenly visited our home. My sister Betty has always been the type who needs to be the center of attention. Since childhood, she was adored by our parents and relatives, which led her to become quite self-centered. This attitude continued into her middle school and high school years, where she'd throw tantrums and lash out whenever things didn't go her way. She's had a wild love life and has even had 2 abortions. Our parents couldn't stand it anymore, and together we had warned her. Listen, Betty, if you keep living like this, you're going to mess up big time. When I warned her like that, she scoffed back at me. Seriously? Annoying much? Are you trying to act like my big sister or something? I'm just worried about you, Betty. If something happens to you, it could be too late to do anything. Wow, hilarious. Really? Can you just stop? You're sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. She laughingly said cruel words as if they were nothing. This was too much even for our parents, who each spoke up. Hey, Betty, what kind of attitude is that? Exactly. Sarah really cares about you. What? I didn't ask for anyone's concern. Betty, how can you say that? If something happens to you, it'll be too late. Please, just take better care of yourself. Enough. It's my life. I don't need your directions, so shut up. How dare you speak to your parents like that? That's awful. Why would you say something like that? The argument continued, and Betty eventually stormed out of the house. She probably hopped from one guy's place to another. I never saw her again until after I had moved out and married David. Our reunion took place in the apartment where David and I lived. She showed up unannounced about a year after we got married. It's been a while, big sis. Betty, why are you here? Just let me in. It's raining outside. No way, David is here. What? I have nowhere else to go. Just let me stay for a bit. She forced her way in and made herself comfortable in the living room. David came out of the bathroom and was startled. Who's this? Sorry, David, this is Betty, my sister. Your sister? The one who left home? She showed up saying she has nowhere to go. Can we let her stay just for tonight? Why just one night? She can stay as long as she needs to. It's cold out there, you know. At that moment, I realized it. David was blushing and looking at Betty, as if in response. Betty also looked at him with a big smile. She grinned right back at him as if I didn't even exist. For the next month, Betty lived with us. She ate our food and used our stuff as if it was hers. She started asking me for money since she's jobless. When I refused, she went to David. Hey, David, can I borrow some money? Here you go. Consider it your allowance. Really? Are you sure? Well, you're kind of like my sister too. Feel free to ask if you need anything. Thank you. I love you, David. Right in front of me, Betty hugged David. She glanced at me with a smirk, as if she had won. I couldn't take it anymore. I rented a monthly apartment and essentially kicked Betty out. David blamed me, and Betty called me all kinds of names, but I couldn't care less. If I didn't do something, the worst could happen. I had to act before it was too late. My intuition was sounding an alarm. Deep down, I knew I had made the right choice. Although I managed to kick my sister out, my relationship with my husband worsened. Recently, we barely spoke to each other, and we had almost no quality time as a couple. Is this strained married life going to continue? That's when an unthinkable, cruel twist hit me. 1 year to live? Are you saying I only have a year? Yes, I recommend starting treatment immediately. You're kidding! There are treatment options. It's best to consult with your family as soon as possible. Okay. I went to the hospital because I was feeling off lately, and that's when they found advanced cancer. They said if I don't get treatment now, I have only a year to live. This can be real, right? I've always been healthy. How could this happen to me? I immediately called my husband to share this news. After multiple calls, he answered, clearly annoyed. What is it? Hey, you're done with work, right? We need to talk. Can you come home? No, I can't. Working late today. Again? Please, it's really important. Quit nagging. I told you I can't. What's so important? I've been diagnosed with cancer. They said I only have a year to live. What? Only a year? At this point, his tone changed, almost as if he was shocked by the 1 year part. Was he worried? That thought disappeared in an instant. He burst into laughter and said something unbelievable. Come on, you're joking, right? How unlucky can you be to get a 1 year diagnosis? What? David, why are you laughing? Do you know how I feel right now? Well, it's just unfortunate, isn't it? Diagnosed with cancer before you're even 30. Must have done something bad in your past life. What? Who am I talking to? Is this the man I fell in love with? The David who always told me he loved me. It felt like I was talking to a stranger. Someone entirely different from the man I once knew. Worse, he seemed to find humor in my life-threatening situation. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was a call from my sister Betty. Hello, I said warily. Hey sis, I heard you've got cancer and only got a year to live? What? How do you know about this? Why? I was just eavesdropping while you were on the phone with David. Why? I was listening right next to David when he talked to you on the phone, you know? What? Why are you with David? Deep down, I already knew the answer. But I couldn't bear to accept that my sister had taken my husband. Reality was far more brutal than I could have imagined. Did you not realize it, sis? I've been dating David ever since you kicked me out of the house. Since then? Really? Actually, even when we were living together, we've been together in the bedroom when you were not home. Stop it! That's too much! How could you? This is hilarious. I've always wanted to get back at you. I was super annoyed when you and our parents lectured me. And you think that justifies this? Hey, it's not my fault, okay? If someone cheats, it's the fault of the one who gets cheated on. Same goes for getting sick. I hung up the phone immediately, my breaths growing heavy. I couldn't continue talking to her. I would lose it. I quickly opened my husband's laptop to look for evidence of his affair. And there it was. Conversation and pictures with my sister, without even the slightest effort to hide it. Let's get married soon. We'll manage the divorce. They planned, as if I was just an obstacle. And that was the moment. The love I had been desperately clinging to toward my husband vanished. What had I been so afraid of? There's no happiness in living with a man who would so easily trample on someone's feelings. My priority now isn't dealing with them. I need to focus on my treatment. Revenge can come later. However, since we found evidence of cheating, there is no reason not to divorce. I transferred evidence from my husband's computer to my phone and visited a law firm the next day. I initiated divorce proceedings and a compensation claim and started treatments in the hospital. When I brought up the divorce, my husband coldly responded, "Divorce? Perfect. I've wanted to split up anyway." To marry my sister Betty? Of course. Plus a wife with a terminal illness has no value. A shame. I can't cash in on the insurance, but oh well. Unbelievable. So this is what you thought of me. Choosing divorce was the right call. So I finalized the divorce, claiming compensation from both my husband and my sister. David paid Betty's share and our relationship ended. For the next year after the divorce, I focused on my treatment and underwent surgery when the tumor shrank. Thankfully, it was successfully removed, and while not entirely cured, I had recovered enough to return to my old life. If the cancer doesn't recur for 5 years, the survival rate dramatically increases. That day, I went to the hospital for my regular checkup. "Is that you, Sarah?" A voice called out from behind me. I turned around to find David, my ex-husband, standing there. "Long time no see. What brings you here?" "I've been trying to reach you. Why aren't you answering my calls?" "Why would I? I deleted your contact a long time ago." "Well, never mind that. You don't have much time left, right?" "What are you talking about?" "Your time's running out, Sarah. My new wife Betty is sick too. I need you to be a donor for her." I was stunned. What on earth was he talking about? Why would I have to be Betty's donor? Why should I give up my life for you two after I've finally gotten my life back on track? I was boiling inside, my body shaking, but I tried to keep my composure. Is it true that Betty is sick? Yes, she's been diagnosed as terminally ill. They won't tell us much, but there's something wrong with her organs. It's some kind of tumor. A tumor? Yes, it's like a hard lump. She needs a donor because of the problem with her organs. A random donor could cause rejection, so you're the best candidate. Why should it be me? Are you kidding? You don't have much time left, Sarah. I've even compensated you, so at least do something useful for us. He looked distressed, his voice raised in anger. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. You really have no idea, do you? What are you talking about? My cancer is almost completely cured. He looked stunned. Of course he would be. When we divorced, I was given only 1 year to live. I'm planning to live my life from now on. I'm not in a condition to become anyone's donor. Wait, Betty is your sister and she's dying. Are you saying you won't do anything? Why should I sacrifice my body for the 2 people who betrayed me? What? He glared at me, as if ready to grab me any second. I thought it was the right moment to drop a bombshell. Since you seem clueless, let me tell you. Betty's current situation is entirely due to her past actions. What are you talking about? What did Betty do? You really have no idea. She's been involved with dozens of men and has had multiple abortions because of it. That's why she got sick and had to go to the hospital multiple times. Wait, are you talking about STDs? I took her to the hospital back then, but I assume you ignored her health issues afterward. That's probably why she's in this situation now. So, unfortunate for you both. Betty was that kind of lowlife? Really? You might see her as your cute sister-in-law and the woman you remarried, but she's always been that way. I bet she's still seeing other men behind your back. He visibly broke down, grabbing his head and collapsing on the spot. In a quiet voice, he muttered, "Help me." I showed no mercy. Help me? You have the nerve to ask that of me? Have you forgotten what you've done? You cheated on me, betrayed me, and abandoned your wife after her terminal diagnosis. Do you understand how cruel that is? I'm sorry. I apologize. Please forgive me. Forgive you? No way. Both you and Betty are responsible for your actions. You both look down on people and only care about your own desires. That's why this is happening. I won't help either of you. Serves you right. I turned away from his tearful face and left the hospital. Finally, I had my revenge. Later, I heard Betty lost all sensation in her limbs and now was bedridden, unable to move freely. Failing to find a doctor, she's going through cycles of hospital stays and the prognosis is grim. David had to switch to part-time work to take care of Betty, and recently, his unexcused absences have been piling up. He's losing face at work, and I hear his job is on the line. Having paid me the settlement, he's broke and working multiple part-time jobs at night. He's also falling apart. Karma's a bitch. He got what he deserved. As for me, I recently returned to the job I had taken leave from for my treatment. I now rent a slightly upscale apartment near work and enjoy a good life. When I was diagnosed as terminally ill and discovered the affair, I had given up on life completely. But facing those challenges head-on has shaped who I am today. I'll continue to believe in myself and strive earnestly for a better life.
Why do you always look sloppy when other moms are so beautiful? I clearly remember when my eldest daughter, who is still in elementary school, said this to me on our way home from an open class day, where I had quickly dropped by from work. I guess she felt embarrassed because I didn't wear makeup and wasn't well dressed, unlike the other moms. Now when I think about it, I wonder if I have always been an unattractive mother in my eldest daughter's eyes since then. My name is Grace. I'm currently 54 years old and work part-time at a factory. I have 2 daughters who are now grown adults with jobs. My husband passed away in an accident 20 years ago with no family to rely on and no particular qualifications. I resolved that I had no choice but to keep going and have been working hard ever since. In the past, I used to juggle multiple jobs, but now I'm getting by renting a cheap apartment with just my part-time job at a factory. Mom, what about my allowance for this month? My eldest daughter, Emily, started living alone as soon as she started working after graduating from college. But she still asks for allowance, and this bothers me. What are you talking about? You're 24. You're a grown adult now. Figure it out on your own. No matter what I say, Emily never backs down, always snapping back at me. She often uses harsh words, and sometimes even throws things. Emily has always been like this, lashing out at me and her sister. I have tried to love both my daughters equally and discipline them strictly, but Emily has always been a trouble for me. You gotta be kidding me. Do you plan on making your daughter live a miserable life? Emily's sudden outburst always makes me flinch from wanting to run away from this tense atmosphere. I always end up giving her some money, even though I know this isn't right. I don't have any extra money this month. This time I handed her a single $50 bill. What am I supposed to do with this? Emily looks down on me, waving the $50 bill and snorts. Seeing Emily after receiving the money always makes me feel pathetic. Why don't you take on more jobs like before? instead of working only at a factory, Emily says coldly. She knows that I have limited my job down to 1, because my body is not as cooperative as it used to be after working nonstop for 20 years. Just as I was starting to feel frustrated, my younger daughter, Lisa, returned from work. Lisa, sensing something was amiss from my demeanor, glared at Emily. You bothered Mom for some money again, didn't you? No, I didn't. Emily avoided Lisa's gaze and quickly left the room. She always comes when Mom's alone. With a look of exasperation, Lisa murmured as she took off her coat. Lisa, who is 2 years younger than Emily at 22, is a responsible young woman living with me while working. According to her, she sees Emily as a bad example to learn from. I'm happy that she's so reliable, but the reason makes it hard to take joy in it. Emily was always a good student and wanted to go to college. I had a tough time raising money for her tuition. Perhaps having witnessed that, Lisa chose to start working right after high school instead. I'm still regretful, wondering if she actually wanted to pursue further education. After getting changed, Lisa took out an envelope from her bag. I bet your purse is empty because of Emily, right? Here, Mom. This month's living expense. From her modest salary, Lisa would hand me our living expense every month. Thank you as always. But why don't you use some for yourself, at least once in a while? I do spend some for myself too, so don't worry. It's only thanks to you and your cooking that I'm able to work and live this lifestyle. So this is the least I can do. Her response made my eyes well up with tears. I plan to save most of the money Lisa gives me, intending to give it back to her when she gets married. Of course, I'll also include some extra amount from my savings then. The money is securely stored in a vault, and of course, only I know the passcode for it. You must be hungry. I'll get dinner ready, so just relax for a bit. As I got up to say that, Lisa flashed a smile at me. I'll help out. Growing older certainly makes one more emotional. With that thought in mind, I wiped the corner of my eyes when no one was looking. Not even a month had passed since then. I've decided to get married. Emily's sudden announcement left both Lisa and I stunned as we exchanged surprised glances. I then shared words of celebration with Emily. Emily, often seen with a scowl, was grinning with delight that day. Even though she's often been a source of trouble, there's nothing more joyful than seeing my daughter happy. My fiancé, the son of a hotel owner, I got it made now, Emily said with a hint of pride. So I want to introduce him and his family to you guys. At that, I nodded in agreement. Sure, I would love to meet them. Dress appropriately, Mom. You always look sloppy. It's embarrassing. Emily's words made Lisa, who was sitting next to her, frown. That's no way to talk to her. I'm just being honest. And you, stop looking like you never went beyond high school. Emily fueled the fire in response to Lisa's objections. Before they could start fighting, I intervened. I'll be sure to dress well. It's an occasion to meet your future family, after all. Hearing this, Lisa stopped herself from snapping back at Emily. Emily seemed to want to say more, but she left a note with the time and place of the meeting, and then went home for the day. On the day of the meeting, I wore a formal suit that Lisa had prepared and headed to the appointed place. Apparently it was rented, but the size fit perfectly and made me look good. Of course, I had also been to the hairdresser for the first time in a year, so I was looking sharp. Lisa, walking next to me, was dressed elegantly without being too flashy. The meeting place was a restaurant inside the hotel run by Emily's future in-laws. Well, you guys look all right. Upon meeting us, Emily spoke. I was relieved internally as she didn't complain about our dress. We entered the restaurant, walking through the elegantly furnished and luxurious hotel where Emily's fiancé and his parents greeted us. Thank you for coming all the way for our engagement. Emily's fiancé, whose name is Ken, was indeed a fine young man, as Emily had described. His parents, too, seemed dignified and calm. I'm Emily's mother, Grace. Thank you for inviting us. We exchanged pleasantries and proceeded to enjoy the meal together, a heartwarming experience. I was surprised to learn during the conversation that a date and venue for the wedding had already been set. I've heard you've had a tough time since losing your husband, Grace. What are you doing now? Asked Ken's mother, to which I hesitated for a moment. Emily might not like my answer, but I thought it would be impolite, not to mention pointless, to lie. I'm currently working part-time at a factory. My younger daughter has been working since high school. I honestly answered, only to catch Emily giving me a fierce look out of the corner of my eye. I felt a chill down my spine. In the next moment, my tense hand knocked over a glass onto the floor. "I'm so sorry." "Not a problem. But are you all right, ma'am?" Ken, who had rushed over, was more concerned about me than the mess. I kept my head bowed, unable to look at Emily. With Lisa's help, we somehow managed to finish the meet and greet without further incident. "Thanks for today. Everyone was so kind. I feel relieved," I told Emily on our way home. In response, she snapped, "Why would you answer honestly like that? I can't believe you embarrassed me like that." She was upset about both my honesty about our lives and the glass-breaking incident. Unable to reply, I watched as Emily left without a word. I couldn't bring myself to call out to her again. The events of that day haunted me for a month afterwards, making me sigh heavily each time I thought of it. Why does Emily seem so embarrassed by Lisa and me? All we're doing is trying to live the best we can for our loved ones. I'm sure Emily will understand one day. She's getting married, and her circle of loved ones is growing. As I kept reminding myself of that, I finished work for the day and headed home. Once I got back home, after getting some groceries, I soon noticed that something was not right. The vault was open. I immediately checked inside, finding my bank book untouched. But all the cash was gone. Stunned, I immediately called Lisa. Normally, I would have thought to call the police, but in my state of confusion, that idea never occurred to me. Yet there was no way Lisa, who was still at work, could answer the phone, so I switched the call to Emily. "Emily, something terrible has happened." Surprisingly, Emily answered the phone immediately. Since I expected her to also be at work, I felt a bit relieved. However, the words that followed gave me a great shock. "Something terrible? You mean someone stole the money from the vault?" "Why?" Barely able to speak, I heard Emily say, "There was only $10,000 in it. Honestly, it was a letdown." At Emily's nonchalant words, I doubted her sanity. "Actually, you set the passcode as your wedding anniversary with Dad. That was so easy to guess, Mom." From there, Emily began to chatter smugly. I don't think I gave her the spare key for our house, but apparently she had made one at some point. It seemed she had been sneaking in while Lisa and I were away, trying various sets of numbers. I didn't think my daughters would know our wedding anniversary, but apparently she had seen the date written on the back of our wedding photo. I can only say I was careless. If it was just my money, I could still bear it somehow. But the money in the safe also included the money Lisa had given me. The money I was planning to give Lisa when she got married. Something inside me seemed to snap. I'm taking this money as a wedding gift, in compensation for making me embarrassed the other day. Emily's words felt distant to me. Low-income factory workers shouldn't attend weddings. The next thing I heard was this. The usual me would have broken down in tears, but I was no longer capable of feeling anything. I understand. At my short response, Emily seemed to sense something different. A small, "Huh?" came through the line, but I just hung up on her. After that, I received numerous calls from Emily, but after ignoring them for a while, they eventually stopped. And then Lisa came home. I calmly recounted the day's events. Lisa was furious, but she seemed to quickly notice that I was upset. "I'm worried about your mental health, Mom." "I'm okay," I assured Lisa with a smile, but her expression remained troubled. Half a year had passed, and here I was, still working my part-time job at a factory. Today's the day, if I remember correctly, if the schedule hadn't changed since our last face-to-face meeting. Today would be Emily's wedding day. We had changed the locks in our apartment after much contemplation. Emily and I hadn't spoken since the incident. She hadn't tried to make contact or come to visit. I was fed up with Emily after that incident, but still, I find myself worrying about her from time to time. I wonder if she's causing trouble for her fiancé's family, if they're getting along well. The anger I felt towards Emily and my feelings as a mother entwine in complexity. I'm still upset and shocked about the money she took from the vault, but deep down, I've given up on getting it back. No use crying over spilt milk, I thought, glancing at the clock. It was lunchtime. As I reached for my purse to buy lunch, I noticed my phone going off inside my bag. Probably a text or a call, I thought. But when I checked, I saw a slew of missed calls. All of them were from Emily. Thinking it must be an emergency, I quickly called her back. After several rings, Emily picked up, pleading, "Mom, help me. Isn't today your wedding day?" I asked, perplexed, but Emily just kept crying. "Emily, calm down. Where are you right now?" She seemed to calm down a little and told me where she was. Just as I guessed, she was at the wedding venue, where it seemed some sort of problem had arisen. I ended the call, asked my boss if I could leave early, and hailed a taxi to the wedding venue. Upon arrival, I could tell something was wrong. The atmosphere was frantic and uneasy. When I approached a staff member, they eyed me suspiciously due to my out-of-place attire. I explained that I was Emily's mother, showed them my ID, and they led me to the waiting room where Emily was. Walking into the basement room, I saw Emily in a pure white wedding dress, but her makeup was ruined. Her face was a mess from tears. Ken, the groom, and his parents were standing around Emily, all wearing grim expressions. They looked shocked when they saw me and quickly bowed their heads. I later found out they had been told that Lisa and I wouldn't be able to attend due to our busy schedules. Hardly having time to exchange greetings, I asked what had happened. Apparently, an unknown man had barged into the wedding ceremony. What's more, the man was said to be Emily's lover. It turns out he had tried to take Emily away with him, saying, "Let's run away together." He was promptly escorted out by security and is now presumably at the police station. As expected, the wedding was halted, leading us to the present situation. The shocking revelations left me perplexed, and then Emily began to sob and make excuses. "Even though Ken has money, he never spoils me. That's why I cheated on him. But I broke up with the other guy before the wedding. He just crashed the ceremony on his own. I didn't do anything wrong." "I don't like splurging, and you knew that. Besides, cheating while engaged, I won't forgive you for this." I empathized with Ken, yet Emily seemed not to understand, holding her head out, saying, "That makes no sense." It seemed like she couldn't accept her consequence. "I couldn't even afford decent dates or shopping with the money I took from my mom's vault. Nothing's going right. This really sucks." Emily confessed that she had taken the money from the vault. From her words, I unexpectedly found out why. She had used it to fund her relationship with her lover. "Emily, no way. Did you use your mother's money?" Ken and the others, hearing for the first time about the vault, were left even more shocked. Emily's story was incoherent, switching topics rapidly. It seemed like her emotions had exploded, and she was beyond help. "Mom made me live a miserable life growing up, which is why I turned out this way. Ken, you said you love me, so why can't you look past this? It's just a little affair." I crouched in front of her and slapped her cheek hard. Enough already. I had never done anything like this before, and Emily stared in surprise, holding her cheek. "Mom!" I grabbed Emily's shoulders and scolded her. "You can't blame everyone else for everything. You'll never find true happiness like this. Admit what you've done and apologize to Ken and his parents." I bowed deeply to Ken and his parents. "I'll make sure she atones for her actions." Emily quietly watched me as I apologized. The usually defiant Emily quietly apologized to Ken, his parents, and to me as well. I think this was the first time she had ever apologized to me. Emily promised to return the money she took from my safe, and we discussed what would happen next. During our discussion, Ken decided to demand Emily repay the full cost of the wedding and pay damages for infidelity during their engagement. Of course, there will be adequate consequences for Emily's lover as well. At a later date, we agreed to compile the terms for damages and my repayment into a contract, to which everyone present approved. A lawyer who Ken's father arranged would be present during this. Emily is in for a hard life from now on, but she brought this all upon herself. I planned to watch over her quietly from a distance. I later learned from Lisa that Emily had quit her job a long time ago, fully intending to become a housewife after marriage. Now she is juggling multiple part-time jobs, worn out but still making her monthly payments to Ken and me. As soon as Emily's engagement was broken off, Lisa's marriage was decided. As Lisa and her fiancé requested, I moved out of my apartment to live with them. I've worked non-stop for 20 years, never really considering my own happiness. But now, I think I'll try to relax and live for my own happiness alongside my daughter and her husband.
My name is Olivia. I've been married to my husband James for 3 years, and we're expecting a baby soon. But ever since I got pregnant, James has been acting a bit strange. Morning sickness has been really tough on me right from the start of my pregnancy. Instead of showing concern, James would say, "Hey, aren't you being a bit lazy?" Without a hint of worry. "I'm struggling with morning sickness. Give me a break."
Pregnancy isn't an illness, you know. What about dinner?
"I can't even think about making dinner with this morning sickness."
Useless. Fine, I'll go eat out.
"What about me?"
If you're going to slack off, then fend for yourself.
"I can't believe this." At this point, James was the one working, and I was dependent on him. That's how I felt. I used to work before getting pregnant, but I had to take a leave of absence because the morning sickness was unbearable. Luckily, my workplace was understanding and allowed me to take parental leave, which was a big relief. When James came home, he seemed to have had a few drinks and yelled,
"The master is home."
"Stop it, you're disturbing the neighbors."
Hey, I'm the one supporting you here.
"I told you, I'm just taking a break because of the morning sickness."
Must be nice being a woman. Just say you have morning sickness, and you don't have to do anything. I wish I could get pregnant and take a break.
I was really angry and said, "You have no idea how hard this is for me."
Yeah, I don't. Someone who sleeps all day wouldn't understand how hard my job is.
I used to work too, you know.
But now you're a housewife.
That's not the point.
Ugh, you're annoying. You're ruining my buzz. I'm going to bed.
With that, he cut off the conversation and went to the bedroom. But the next morning, he was completely different and apologized, saying,
"I'm sorry."
"Did you say those things because you were drunk?"
I had quite a bit to drink.
"That's no excuse.
I didn't mean it. I was just drunk."
"It still hurts to hear those things."
"I'm really sorry. I mean it."
"Don't do it again." This kind of thing happened a few times, but as time went on, James's behavior got worse. Especially noticeable was how he would criticize the difference in status between my family and his.
"You should be grateful to my family. Our child will be the heir, after all."
"What do you mean?"
"My prestigious family compared to your average salaryman family. There's no comparison."
Is lineage really that important these days?
You don't get it. Noble blood has its own value.
Isn't what you're doing now and how you grow more important?
That's why you're hopeless,
he said, dramatically waving his hands in a dismissive gesture. But the truth is, his family is just an average salaryman family too, and they're not even part of a big corporation. In fact, when it comes to the companies we work for, my family is higher up. I never really thought about the social standing of our families, but it seemed to matter a lot to James. Besides, when we were both working, I actually earned more than he did. I didn't really understand what he meant by status. So you're saying that no matter how hard I work and earn, it doesn't matter because of my lineage?
That's right.
What about people who built huge companies in one generation, like Steve Jobs?
Stop it. You're just making excuses.
I think it's a valid point.
No, it's an excuse. This is why people with ordinary backgrounds are...
You married this ordinary person, remember?
I did you a favor by marrying you.
At that, I was visibly angry, and he seemed to realize he'd gone too far and quickly left the room. He wasn't like this before I got pregnant. What happened to him? Should I get a divorce? I thought about it, but with a child on the way, I couldn't bring myself to leave him. Besides, I thought he might go back to being the man I married once the baby was born. I thought so. On the day of the delivery, he was at the hospital but got kicked out of the room by the nurse for saying things like, "It can't be that painful," and "This is taking too long. Can I go to sleep?" After that, I couldn't bring myself to see him, and he didn't meet our child until I was discharged. During that time, he sent messages like, "The nurse kicked me out. Where should I go? What about my dinner? Has the baby been born? If I can't see them, I don't need to come, right? The baby looks like me, not like you at all, LOL." That's when I seriously started considering divorce. But what held me back were my in-laws. They are wonderful people. As soon as the baby was born, they called to say, "We're so glad everything went well. How are you feeling?" "Take it easy. Do you need anything? We can send it over if it's not a bother." They've always been so kind to me, even more so than my own parents. The thought of taking their grandchild away from them made it hard to go through with the divorce. I invited them to the hospital to meet their grandchild, and they were delighted. They came, all the while concerned about my well-being. "Congratulations, Olivia. The baby is adorable." "Oh, absolutely. Our first grandchild. Thank you, Olivia." "I'm glad you could see your grandchild. By the way, where's James?" I couldn't tell them the truth about James's terrible behavior, so I said, "He's busy with work." "That man, I swear. He should take some time off for such a happy occasion." "Well, he has to work." "True. We'll need the money now more than ever." "Please let us know if he does anything wrong." I wanted to tell them everything, but seeing their joyous faces as they looked at their grandchild, I couldn't bring myself to do it. "I will." Melissa, my mother-in-law, seemed to sense something was off. "Are you okay? You look tired. Is something wrong?" I felt tears coming and started to cry. "Is it related to James not being here today?" Women's intuition is sharp. I began to open up. "Actually, I've been struggling with James's behavior since I got pregnant." "Really? Don't hold back. Tell me." "He said I was lazy when I had severe morning sickness. He even said he wished he could slack off too. I'm not slacking off." "Oh my." I told him how bad my morning sickness was. "He doesn't understand anything. Calling a pregnant woman with morning sickness lazy." "Even during childbirth, he was so terrible that the nurses kicked him out. I didn't want to see him, so I didn't call him." "I see." "Unbelievable. I'll give him a piece of my mind." Daniel was visibly angry, his face red. "But I'm hoping he'll go back to the way he was once the baby is born. I thought maybe it's just a case of the baby blues. So for now, please let it be." "You're very kind, Olivia." "If Olivia says so, we'll leave it for now. But if he acts up in front of us, we're taking you home. No questions asked." "That's fine with me. And if anything else happens, don't hesitate to tell us." "Exactly. Your and the baby's well-being is what matters most." My in-laws said this and gently squeezed my hand. With these two around, I can make it through. And my husband should go back to being himself. That's what I thought as I was discharged from the hospital. But he never changed. When I got home, he said, "Finally back, huh? Hogging the baby all to yourself. This is my heir, you know." "It's because of your attitude." "Oh, already in a bad mood. That's not good for the child." He was fine when my parents came to celebrate the birth, but reverted back as soon as they left. Seeing this, I knew he was doing it on purpose. About 2 weeks after giving birth, Melissa contacted me. "We'd like to come over for a baby celebration this Sunday. Are you up for it?" I'm fine, thank you. Don't worry about us. How about we have lunch together? Oh, we couldn't impose. We'll bring lunch. Thank you. It's no problem. We're coming to your home after all. You should take it easy for a meal. Melissa, see you then. After ending the call with Melissa, I told my husband, Melissa and the others are coming for a baby celebration this Sunday.
All right. Make sure to entertain them properly.
You're not going to help?
I'm the man of the house. I don't need to.
I'm tired from just giving birth.
If it's that serious, you should have stayed in the hospital. You're discharged, so you're fine. You're just exaggerating.
I can't believe,
Like I've said, pregnancy isn't an illness. Just get everything ready.
With that, he left for work. I did the bare minimum cleaning and prepared coffee, waiting for Sunday. On the day of the celebration, unfortunately, my husband had work in the morning and would join us in the afternoon. My in-laws arrived and immediately began fussing over me. How are you feeling? You're not pushing yourself, are you?
If you're sleep deprived, you can leave the baby with us and rest.
Thank you. Then they looked at the baby and said, the baby was cute when born, but has gotten even cuter.
The eyes are just like Olivia's. Maybe the nose is from James.
Seeing them so happy made me feel good, and for the first time since the baby was born, I felt at peace. Around lunchtime, we decided to eat as the baby was asleep. Daniel brought out some appetizers and said,
Eat whatever you want. Don't worry about us.
The celebration is also for the new mom, you know. Melissa, Daniel, thank you. Just as we were enjoying our meal, my husband came home.
I'm back. Mom, Dad, welcome. It's been a while.
How have you been? As the greetings were exchanged, my husband noticed the appetizers on the table and yelled at me.
Hey, my parents are here and you bought this cheap stuff? How many times have I told you pregnancy isn't an illness? Stop slacking off.
I was shocked. I never thought he'd say such a thing in front of my in-laws. He then turned to them and said,
Sorry, Mom and Dad. She's not very thoughtful. I'll have her make something else right away.
When I looked at my in-laws, Melissa looked surprised, and Daniel was clenching his fists, looking down. My husband misunderstood their reaction as anger towards me and continued,
See? Get moving. Ever since she got pregnant, she's been like this, always claiming morning sickness and slacking off. I never thought she'd be this kind of woman.
After about 5 minutes of his rant, Daniel had had enough.
Did you say the appetizers were cheap? Yes, I did. Sorry about that. She probably got them from the local supermarket.
Unable to bear it any longer, I interjected. Actually, Daniel bought those.
What? Stop lying.
He bought them from a department store's food section. Sorry they're not up to your standards.
You...
Realizing he was at a disadvantage, my husband's face fell apart.
No. I thought Olivia bought them.
Even so, how could you say such things to a woman who just gave birth?
I didn't raise you to be like this, but she's been slacking off.
That's not true. I've been dealing with severe morning sickness and physical limitations.
That's no big deal.
Melissa chimed in. What are you saying? I told you I was hospitalized due to severe morning sickness when I was pregnant with you.
But she didn't need to be hospitalized, so she's fine.
You don't get it.
Pregnancy is tough. And who do you think was carrying your child? Olivia.
My husband looked flustered, his face turning various shades. I went to my room and returned with a diary and divorce papers. I would have reconsidered if you'd behaved in front of your parents. This diary contains everything you've said to me. It's enough evidence for a lawsuit.
That could be fabricated. After what you did in front of us, that's unlikely. We'll support Olivia if she goes to court.
Daniel,
I can't believe you're my son. I don't want to think of him as my son anymore. Really?
hey, Olivia, would you let us re-educate him? Maybe we messed up his upbringing in the first place. Melissa, look, if we're the ones who messed up, let us try to fix it. If it doesn't work, you can divorce him. We'll cut ties too.
Even you, Mom?
All right. James, be grateful to Daniel and Melissa. I'll wait until your re-education is complete. If there's no improvement, then we'll divorce.
Answer me!
Startled by Daniel's loud voice, James stiffened and muttered a faint, "Yes." So now we're separated. My in-laws occasionally check on me and update me on how James is doing. Apparently, they're teaching him how to cook now. It turns out James acted the way he did because he felt inferior to my income and was mocked by his colleagues. He took his boss's advice to strike while the iron is hot. Too literally. Even after hearing this, I can't forgive him. My in-laws aren't ready to forgive him either, so it looks like his re-education will continue for a while. After some time, I received a message from my husband.
Lately, I've been doing all the housework after coming home from work. When I complained about being tired, my colleagues laughed at me when I told them why. They said I'm soft and my parents are strict. So, could you tell my parents to ease up? They seem to listen to you more, and if you say it, they might forgive me.
I quietly forwarded the message to Melissa and Daniel. You are the company you keep, they say. It seems the environment was toxic for James. If he doesn't change his ways soon, it looks like we'll be divorcing before our child even gets to see their dad's face.
This house is for me and my parents. Write up the divorce papers and get out.
My husband, Leon, who has been treating me like a maid and always favoring his parents, is again saying whatever he pleases. I've been patient so far to avoid upsetting my parents, who were so happy about our marriage, but if he's going to behave like this in front of them, it suits me fine. Alright, I'll do as you say. I left the room, taking my distraught parents with me. When will he realize his numerous misunderstandings? I'm looking forward to it. My name is Jessica, 29 years old. I was born when both of my parents were 40 years old. They wanted a child, but it didn't come easy, and infertility treatments were not as advanced as they are now, so they had a lot of distress. Just as they were about to give up on having a child, that's when I came into their lives, and even now my parents still talk about it joyfully. Being the long-awaited child, I was doted on immensely by my parents. Even when looking at my childhood photos, I can feel the love my parents had for me. Although my parents were not wealthy, they always celebrated events like my birthday, Easter, and my kindergarten graduation in a grand manner. They were also very supportive of my studies. If I said I wanted to learn English, they immediately enrolled me in an English conversation class, and they bought me a lot of books because I loved reading. They also said, "If it's something you need for your studies, just let us know and we'll get it for you." Looking back, I now realize that they must have struggled quite a bit to cover my education expenses, but they never showed it. They always treated me with smiles and celebrated greatly when I got good grades. As I grew older, sometimes my friends would mistake my parents for my grandparents, but I never minded. I met my now husband, Leon, at a matchmaking service. Leon, like me, was an only child with elderly parents, and our circumstances were similar. We had the same hobbies, and our conversations were lively. We dated smoothly and decided to get married. My loving parents were in tears at our wedding, blessing our marriage. At first, I was working after our marriage, but Leon proposed.
We both have elderly parents. Of course, we don't feel dissatisfied about it, but wouldn't it be nice if they were younger? It's tough to raise a child in old age. We want to have children sooner, so can you quit your job and focus on raising a child?
I loved my job, but what Leon said made sense. I remembered my mother telling me that her night shift job and the stress from it, as well as not being able to get the timing right for conception, might have been reasons why they had difficulty having me. I thought it might be a good idea to quit my job and focus on creating a conducive environment for having a baby. Plus, Leon said,
you can return to work when our child is old enough,
which reassured me. Fortunately, I had a professional certification that would allow me to return to work anytime. So, I quit my job and became a full-time homemaker. However, after our marriage, Leon started acting high and mighty just because I was a homemaker. Before we got married, I thought Leon treated me as an equal, but after, he started acting as if he was superior. Being a housewife isn't exactly a walk in the park. Between cooking 3 meals a day, cleaning, laundry, things I used to casually handle when I was alone became a challenge, especially since Leon is particular about details and won't allow any slack.
Dinner should always consist of at least 3 dishes. Also, ensure there's hot pancakes for breakfast. My mom managed to do that even while working. When I wake up in the morning, my suit and shirt should be ready on the hanger. Just grab my bag and go. That's the least you can do as a housewife. That's how my parents always did it.
Every time I tried to object, he would retort,
"You're a housewife, aren't you? Don't get too high and mighty while eating off my dime."
That became his catchphrase. Despite his complaints about me eating off his dime, the money Leon gave for household expenses was barely enough. I spent my days scrutinizing our budget, constantly scouring the internet for money-saving tips. One day, given the situation, I mused out loud, maybe I should go back to work.
Leon responded with, "Didn't you say you used to work at a law firm? Being a secretary there won't make much money. I won't allow you to neglect housework for that."
So he wouldn't even let me return to work. I wondered if Leon was misunderstanding something. However, by this time, I was too tired of his constant complaints and shouting to argue. And truthfully, I wasn't sure if I could maintain the quality of housekeeping and care for Leon if I was also working. Moreover, I didn't want to upset my parents, who were so happy about our marriage, so I couldn't confide in them. But it wasn't just Leon's attitude that bothered me. He frequently invited his parents to our house. Mother's Day, Father's Day, his parents' birthdays. He would find any excuse to invite them over and have me prepare the meal. On these occasions, Leon would give me extra money, instructing me to buy some good fish or make a steak from premium beef. Every time we hosted his parents, Leon would give them gifts. His parents would eat and drink to their heart's content, treating our house as if it was their own, without thanking me, and then they'd leave. Once, I asked Leon, "I think it's great that you honor your parents, and I don't oppose it, but can we also invite my parents occasionally?" Leon immediately turned sour and snapped.
"Why would we do that? Understand this. I'm the one paying for the meals and gifts. Why should I spend money on your parents who aren't even blood related to me?"
He dismissed the suggestion. Resigned, I started secretly using my savings from before I was married to buy presents for my parents. Then one day, my parents contacted me looking troubled. They told me there was a fire in the apartment next to their house, and part of their home was burned down. Thankfully, they were unharmed, but the house required major repairs. They were temporarily living in a makeshift house. I decided to visit my parents. Even though they were going through a tough time, they welcomed me warmly. When my father gently asked, "Is your marriage going well?" a twinge of sadness hit me as I replied, "Yes, we're getting along all right." When I inquired about their future plans, he explained that their partially burned down house had been standing since my great-grandfather's era and was incredibly old to begin with, so they were thinking about letting it go. They were considering moving into a rental apartment going forward. My mother sighed. Even though it's an old house, it's filled with memories of Jessica, so it's sad to let it go. At that moment, I made up my mind. I decided to discuss this with Leon when I got home. Do you remember I mentioned that my parents' house was caught in a fire and burned down? Given their age, I was thinking of buying them a new house, maybe one equipped with accessibility features. Leon curtly retorted,
Huh? Where's the money coming from? I'm not putting in a dime.
Just as I'd expected, I replied, I'm not planning on building a mansion, so it won't be a burden on you. I intend to use my savings from my single days. Leon pondered for a bit, then casually responded,
Guess even a law firm clerk can save that much. Well, if you're not using my money, then it's fine.
So I decided to give my parents a house. I felt it was high time I paid back their kindness. Several months later, Leon, I'm helping my parents move tomorrow, I told him.
Leon replied, All right, I got it. But don't neglect your house chores.
Then retreated to the bedroom. The next day, I went to help my parents move. Unbeknownst to me, a group of individuals had begun tailing me at that point. We carried my parents' belongings into the house, and we were relaxing in the living room. We were all filled with joy at being together as a family after so long. But then Leon and my in-laws suddenly barged in. While we stared in bewilderment, Leon declared,
From today, this is my house.
I was taken aback by Leon's sudden appearance. Why are you here? When I asked this, he haughtily replied,
I heard you were moving today, so I followed you.
When I responded, What? My house? What are you talking about? I don't understand.
Leon stated, I've been supporting you all this while. Just marrying someone as clueless as you is something you should be grateful for. My parents have always eaten your terrible cooking with patience. Now it's your turn to return the favor.
What a repulsive man. As I stared at him in silence, Leon continued,
I've canceled the lease on our apartment. Take your stuff and get out.
At that moment, my confused father started to say,
Leon, this house.
But I stopped him from speaking. Strangely calm, a plan was taking shape in my mind. Instead of my father, I said, This house is our home, my parents and me. What are you talking about? When I relayed that, Leon replied laughing,
Don't you understand English? I'm saying the house you bought was my house all along. This is now my parents' house and mine. Oh, I also left divorce papers at home. You be sure to submit them.
Ignoring my parents' attempts to speak, I told him, All right, I will follow your instructions. Then I asked the movers to reload the truck we had just unloaded, instructing them on what to do. As this happened, another truck arrived, carrying Leon's and his parents' belongings. I reassured my unsettled parents by saying, I will explain everything later. Just follow my instructions for now. We then left the house together. During our ride, I explained to my parents what was going on. Listen, I've kept quiet about this until now. Once they heard everything, they understood and praised my actions. It reminded me of the joy I felt as a child when I was praised by my parents. A few weeks later, I got repeated calls from Leon. Reluctantly, I answered the phone. Without waiting for my hello, Leon shouted,
Hey, isn't this the house you bought? Someone just told me they're going to call the cops if I don't leave.
Yeah, that's correct. So when you said that house was ours, I was taken aback. That rental was your house, huh? I replied, laughing. This made Leon absolutely livid.
Hey, quit mocking me. Just explain it. Wasn't that house bought for your parents?
Then I explained everything to Leon step by step. The house that I had bought for my parents was under renovation after the purchase. However, the day before moving in, the renovation company told us, due to our mistake, the work will not be finished on the scheduled date. It was entirely the renovation company's fault. Since they had contacted us in the evening, it was too late to cancel the movers. The renovation company, taking responsibility for their mistake, arranged a rental house for us to live in until the real house was ready. It was a model home that had finished its exhibition period. We planned to live there until the renovations were completed, but Leon and his parents moved in by mistake. When my parents tried to clarify, I decided to get revenge based on Leon's terrible misinterpretation. After that, I stored all of our belongings in a rented storage unit and lived in a hotel with my parents. Meanwhile, I submitted the divorce papers prepared by Leon as he had instructed, and that's how I got divorced from him. My parents told me you should have consulted us sooner. However, I think things turned out for the best. I was able to spend time with my parents and managed to divorce Leon. Now, I'm living with my parents in our newly renovated house. I've deliberately not shared our new address with Leon, so he has no idea where we live. Leon once asked me,
"But how are you going to support yourself without me? You were just a stay-at-home wife, right?"
With a sigh, I answered, I didn't expect you to be under this misconception for so long, but my profession is a lawyer,
Huh?
Leon seemed shocked and responded with a confused reply. When I first met Leon at a matchmaking service, he asked me what I did for a living. I told him that I worked at a law firm. He assumed I was a secretary. I let him believe that because when I'd previously mentioned being a lawyer, people often remarked how stuffy it sounded or how they didn't like being corrected based on the law. I hadn't imagined he'd continue to mistake me for a secretary after that. It showed how little interest he really had in me. I guess Leon wanted a housewife more than a partner. I think the reason he asked me to be a stay-at-home wife was just that. I bought the house with the savings I had from my time as a single lawyer.
If you explain that, well, we're married, so I should have a claim to the property.
I responded, the savings I had before marriage are mine, and they're not subject to property division. If you have a problem with that, we can go to court, but I'll win, of course. Hearing this, Leon fell silent on the other end of the phone. I ignored such remarks from Leon, saying, "Well then, goodbye. Be nice to your beloved parents." And with that, I hung up the phone. I heard about what happened next through a fellow attorney who used to be my colleague. Leon kept contacting me, unable to accept the situation, so I reluctantly decided to communicate with him through my attorney. Leon was insisting on me returning the money we had spent during our married life. However, after discussions through the lawyer, he understood that it was not feasible and seemed quite disappointed. That's expected. After all, I became a stay-at-home wife because Leon asked me to, and it's a husband's duty to provide for his family. I did everything that I should have as a homemaker, and I didn't fall short. Leon had terminated our apartment lease himself, leaving him with no place to stay. Currently, he has moved back into the small condo where his parents lived, and the three of them are living there, uncomfortably crammed into the small space. Leon had virtually no savings. He had a low salary, and yet, he made me stay at home, only gave me the bare minimum for living expenses, and spent the rest of the money on his hobbies and gifts for his parents. Despite this, Leon was starting to desire a larger house. He seemed to have come up with this plan when I mentioned to my parents that I wanted to buy a house. Needless to say, it failed spectacularly. Even if it weren't a temporary home, assuming that we would leave quietly is just stupid. It's pathetic to realize how naive my ex-husband was. Leon is now tired of caring for his parents in the cramped condo, and he has been pressing for reconciliation many times, now that he knows I'm a lawyer. Of course I've been ignoring him. I'm currently enjoying my time in my new house with my parents. At the moment, I'm not particularly keen on getting married again. However, a fellow attorney who I worked with during my divorce from Leon has been showing some interest. I am considering being a bit more positive about it, perhaps to give my beloved parents the joy of seeing their grandkids sooner.